RG Slide is one of ANBERNIC's first jabs at making something innovative and launching it without the typical history of copying what others have done or are currently working on. I'm happy that ANBERNIC believes in this product. We need more innovation from them in this space. They have the funds and the capabilities to create new, incredible devices that differ from the competition. The RG Slide is a foot in the right direction and has likely come to fruition due to Sony's patent of sliding keypads for phones expiring on the 21st of June 2025. Coincidence? Maybe. So in this review, I want to share with you my opinions of the RG Slide, if it lives up to the hype, what this sliding function is like, and if it's worth $189. Let's jump into it. Alright, let's quickly talk specs. It has a 4.7-inch LTPS touch display with a resolution of 1280 by 960 at 120Hz and 500 nits, an octa-core Unisoc T820 CPU, a Mali G57 GPU, 8GB of RAM, 5000 mAh of battery, 128GB of storage, and it runs on Android 13. So I think this is one of the first Android-based sliding handhelds we've had in a very long time, or if ever, actually. The box is like any traditional ANBERNIC packaging, this time paired with a sleeve that showcases the handheld in a colored image. The RG Slide comes with a charging cable and even a screen protector, which I highly advise installing because this device is heavy to say the least, and it's something I'll get onto very shortly. When I pulled the RG Slide out of the box, I was shocked at how big, how heavy, and how thick this device is. It feels like one of those oversized PDAs from the 2000s, coming in at 380 grams in weight, which is roughly the same weight as a Nintendo Switch. And that's what makes it feel a little bit too heavy, because all of that weight is compacted into such a small footprint that it just feels unnatural to hold, because it feels like a brick. ANBERNIC has rammed a whole games console into the form factor of a small smartphone, so the thickness is to be expected, but still, after sliding open the device, this thickness does somewhat dissipate slightly, and it feels much more like a handheld rather than a brick in your hand. Let's get on to the design aspects of the RG Slide, because it's one of the first to do it in the last few years, and I think it's going to start a trend here in the retro handheld space. The RG Slide features a 4.7-inch LTPS touch display with a resolution of 1280 by 960. That's an aspect ratio of 4:3, making it great for retro games that fill up the entire display without the black borders. Put simply, an LTPS stands for low temperature polysilicon, a higher quality material used to make the transistors that control each pixel on the screen. In ways that noobs like me can understand, this basically means it can perform better, draining the battery less, it allows for higher resolution displays, and enables faster response times. It's the first time ANBERNIC has used a display like this. I have had very few issues with their previous displays that were bright and had great upscaling and great saturation, so seeing a new display was again another small surprise, but warmly welcomed considering that this is a premium device. What I instantly noticed is that the contrasts were much improved to previous handhelds, while hues were perfectly exposed and dark spots within games had high detailing, making retro consoles such as GameCube, Dreamcast and PS2 look slightly more vivid in comparison to older ANBERNIC products. In a way, it feels like an OLED display, and it sits in a glass surrounding in a similar vein to what Neo has been doing over the last few years. And although it does look and feel modern in the display area, there's no denying that it feels a little nostalgic. The whole chunkiness, the sliding factors, and the design. It's either you think it's modern or you don't. On either side of the display, you'll find front-facing speakers and two buttons, hidden in plain sight. These buttons offer access to emulator settings and menus on the fly. The screen slides up to reveal the controller behind it. The force needed is a natural amount, and in no way will this spring up or down without using some muscle. That's just as it should be, and what I would have expected, because we don't want this opening up in your pocket when you jump off a curb, because I think this will knock off a certain object close to your pocket, if you know what I mean. The function in itself with the spring, very nice. It goes where you want with little resistance, as mentioned. However, this sound just screams plastic hitting plastic, and this has some strength to it, and I just don't know if it would have been better for ANBERNIC to add some rubber padding back there to assist with the longevity of this handheld, because if you're doing that, hundreds of times a week, thousands of times a month probably. I just don't know how long that mechanism is going to stand up for, because that just sounds so unnatural. I have a funny feeling that ANBERNIC will swiftly change the way they build sliding handhelds in the future, because I think a lot of customers will at first like this, cool, yeah, great, and then like me, after a couple of weeks you go, damn, I don't like the sound of that. So I think, again, and it's the theme of this video, it's a step in the right direction. However, I think with a couple of iterations to the sliding function, I think it will be more appreciated by customers and people that actually want to keep this for many, many years without the clacking eventually breaking something. Once you've spent 15 minutes opening and closing the handheld hundreds of times and finally gotten it out of your system, you'll focus on the gamepad and controls that are hidden underneath the display. When the device is open, the weight and thickness distribution feels much better and far more natural. The display isn't heavy, so there's no imbalance in my opinion. The weight is at the bottom, giving your palms the center of gravity and making it more comfortable to play on for long periods of time. The analog sticks are not whole joysticks, but are something called high precision joysticks. I'm not entirely sure why they are called that, and I'm sad that whole joysticks and their backlights haven't made an appearance here, because I am a sucker for whole joysticks with those little LED lights that are apparent on other ANBERNIC devices. When you fully extend them in one direction, however, it reveals the stick's internals, something I rarely see. This isn't a good look, and it's due to the rubber crown not being big enough to cover the base. This could mean that dirt, crumbs, or tiny objects could in fact fall into the device itself and stop the stick's fluid motion. In typical ANBERNIC fashion, the D-pad is remarkable. It's thick and sturdy, yet easy to press. The same goes for the action buttons. These have a tough resistance and will need some force to press. They sit far from the receivers but feel nostalgic to press, with no clicking noises, wrapped in a high gloss for that premium feel. The rest of your buttons and ports, such as a 3.5mm headphone jack, volume controls, and on and off button, can be found around the side of the handheld. The shoulder buttons are in no way exciting to use, but they do the job and keep the handheld from being any thicker. The Unisoc T820 is a processor used in other ANBERNIC devices such as the RG406V, so it's not unknown as to what its capabilities are. Partner this with a Mali G57 GPU and 8GB of RAM, it's certainly enough to power most of your collection, to a point. It's not an overwhelming amount of power for $189, especially when you consider that Go Retro are using Snapdragon CPUs with a budget that is just $30 or $40 more than the RG Slide. That said, jumping straight into it, the RG Slide can emulate most of your PST games well at 1x native resolution. During my tests, this was its limits. Stretching to 1.5x in larger PS2 games will show its first signs of struggle through restrained frame rates and audio stutters. This is good for many of us who are perhaps okay playing PS2 games on a 4.7-inch display at 1x native resolution, but you will notice that it feels quite pixelated on this screen. A 2x native resolution would have been perfect and is visible on some very small PS2 games, and I think for me, that's where I envisioned this and I saw this as a great PS2 device if you can get to 2x native resolution, which it cannot do on most PS2 games, which is a shame because it feels like the power is almost there to make PS2 gaming really, really fun, but it just isn't. So you're stuck at 1x resolution, which on this little display, I know some of you won't like the look of it, and I'm the same. Consoles like Dreamcast, GameCube, and PlayStation 1 are where I spent most of my time, in all honesty, with a dabble of PS2. These older consoles just look and feel better on here, with upscale options to make things look super impressive on this display. Majority of games for these consoles will perform well. The same goes for Nintendo 64 if you're able to map the keys in weird ways and put up with it because of the button layout and so on for Nintendo 64, but it's possible. And of course, your older consoles such as Game Boy, NES, Mega Drive, Neo Geo, SNES, and others all perform well without any issues, which is expected on a premium device like this. That power wrapped in this wonderful aesthetic certainly makes it a unique handheld, one that doesn't come close to anything on the market as of now in comparison to other handheld emulators. And that's what you are buying, enough power to emulate PS2 games at 1x native resolution and a slide-up styled device. It's bulky, it's heavy, it's thick, it's a little bit awkward, but if you're willing to sacrifice that, you are able to experience a very unique retro handheld that is annoyingly quite fun to use. The slide-up needs some work, but that wrapped up with PS2 and Dreamcast and GameCube emulation is a lot of fun, if you can put up with the chubbiness. My only issue is that it may get old real quick, especially the slide up function and the weight and the thickness, when another company comes along with a new slide up handheld that can do PS2 emulation at 2x native resolution, because that will happen, and I think it will happen fast. The competition knows the market wants slide up displays and dual screen displays. I think that's coming. And with ANBERNIC being one of the first to do it, to see what the market are saying, I think the likes of Go Retro, maybe even Trim UI, maybe even Mayu might come along and do something as well. Now let's talk about the OS. Damn it, ANBERNIC, I'm getting bored of writing about how low quality their user experience is, and it's one of the biggest reasons why ANBERNIC still feels like a cheap Chinese handheld company. The experience, the software experience is just dog. Yes, it has Android 13, which opens up ample opportunities to use Android apps and cloud streaming, which I don't really do on here. Their RG launcher and setup experience is just so poor though, especially considering that competitors like Go Retro and ANEO have had custom solutions for a very long time now. ANBERNIC really needs to catch up in this area, as it makes the product feel cheap, and although it doesn't dull the gaming experience, so to speak, it does just add a grey cloud over the whole process of organizing your game's library. Now, on the subject of awful, the time and investment they could have spent on upgrading their launcher and front end looks to have been spent on installing some kind of terrible AI assistant named ANBERNIC AI in app form. Why? I just feel like we're in this moment where AI is just shoved into everything. This is a feature that nobody has asked for, and again, just like its launcher and setup guide, is designed very poorly. I'm frustrated to see ANBERNIC go down yet another route that makes the device feel incredibly cheap, which it isn't. It doesn't feel cheap. The build quality is good, the buttons, the screen, it's all great. It's all pretty nice, apart from the rubber needed in the slide up function, but then it's just slapped with this very low quality software and this AI product that absolutely nobody's going to use. One of them is an AI assistant that you can talk to. Hey ANBERNIC, what's the best retro games? And it just pulls stuff from the web, and it takes forever to do so. So much so that it's quicker to actually go on your phone, type it yourself, and go to websites like ours. But these guys are using AI to rip the content without our permission from websites like ours to give to customers, and there's no creditation. There's no creditation to who this content was sourced by. It's just ANBERNIC AI's content. I'm pretty sure that's somewhat illegal to do, but hey, AI likes to steal. ANBERNIC are so focused on quantity that this is yet another device that lacks quality from a software standpoint, which is something that should not be said about a $189 handheld of this caliber. I can somewhat let that slide, pun intended, on their affordable devices under $99, and I hope you see that in our review. But at this price point, I stand firm without budging here. ANBERNIC really need to step up on the software front if they want to be considered a premium handheld manufacturer, and I don't think I see them doing that or building a premium or a truly premium device in a very long time. It's a shame because I do like playing on the RG Slide. It's unique, it's fun, it's interesting. It's got the slide up display. It's powerful enough for PlayStation 2, which is enough for many of us. Yet the software and the cheap clacking of that slide up display really lowers the wow factor of this device, which it should have at $189. So if you do really like the slide up function and are happy with 1x native PS2 functioning, then this is a device that I'm sure many of you will enjoy. But I feel like we should just wait maybe 3 to 6 months to see what competition is doing, and maybe ANBERNIC kind of alters this version slightly with a higher quality slide up display and real software that we all enjoy using and organizing our ROMs with, but we're just not there yet. So if you're impatient, go for it. If you're patient and can wait 6 months for other handhelds that will likely have a slide up display and maybe even better PS2 performance with a nice software OS UX experience, then I think you should wait it out. So yeah, there we have it. I hope you enjoyed this review. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy what we do here, you can support at retrododo.com/membership. Thank you. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.